In early February 2025, a wave of controversy rippled through Washington, D.C., after President Donald Trump launched a series of statements attacking the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. In a series of press conferences and public remarks, Trump denounced USAID as inefficient and wasteful. He asserted that the agency was run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and were getting them out, and announced plans to dismantle it, a move he claimed would eliminate what he characterized as criminal mismanagement. Perhaps most controversially, Trump's ally Elon Musk, newly tapped to head the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, echoed these sentiments, branding USAID a criminal organization, and insisting that it was time for it to die. This article unpacks those claims by delving into the background of USAID, presenting detailed fact-checking of Trump's statements, and exploring the broader political and geopolitical implications of his proposals. Understanding USAID, history, mission, and global role. Established in 1961 by an act of Congress, USAID has long been the primary vehicle for U.S. international development and humanitarian assistance. The agency's mission is multifaceted. It works to alleviate poverty, improve healthcare, bolster education, and promote economic growth in some of the world's most challenging environments. Over the decades, USAID's programs have reached millions, from providing food aid in famine-stricken regions to spearheading initiatives that support democratic governance. Critics, however, have periodically questioned the agency's efficiency. But for many development experts, USAID remains a cornerstone of U.S. soft power, a tool that not only aids vulnerable populations but also helps maintain American influence in regions where rivals like China and Russia are aggressively expanding their own footprints. Trump's rhetoric and the push to dismantle USAID. The controversial claims. During his address in February 2025, President Trump leveled several pointed criticisms against USAID. Wasteful spending. Trump cited examples of projects that he described as wasteful spending. Among these were claims that USAID was responsible for spending $1.5 million on a program designed to promote LGBT workplace inclusion in Serbia and $2.5 million on building electric vehicle chargers in Vietnam. According to Trump, these projects represented clear evidence of misallocation of taxpayer funds and ideological overreach. Management and ideological bias. Trump's language was incendiary, accusing the agency's leadership of harboring radical ideologies. His claim that the agency was run by a bunch of radical lunatics was designed to resonate with his base by painting USAID as an out-of-touch bureaucratic entity that undermines American values. Unilateral authority to reorganize. Beyond financial critiques, the president asserted that he possessed the authority to dismantle or restructure USAID entirely, a move he argued was necessary to cut through entrenched government inefficiencies. Elon Musk's support. Adding an unexpected twist to the controversy, tech mogul Elon Musk, recently appointed to lead the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, joined the fray. Musk publicly backed Trump's proposal, describing USAID as a criminal organization, and claiming that its elimination was the only path forward for a more effective American government abroad. His involvement underscored the administration's broader narrative of radical reform across government agencies. Detailed fact-checking of key claims. Several independent fact-checking organizations and policy experts have scrutinized the Trump administration's assertions. We will look at a detailed examination of each major claim. 1. Allegations of wasteful spending. The claims. Trump highlighted specific projects, such as a $1.5 million initiative for LGBT workplace inclusion in Serbia and a $2.5 million effort to install electric vehicle chargers in Vietnam, as emblematic of USAID's alleged wastefulness. What the fact-checkers found. Misattribution of funds. Detailed reviews by organizations like PolitiFact have revealed that the narrative surrounding these projects is misleading. In some instances, the projects cited were not managed by USAID at all but rather by the State Department or other agencies involved in international affairs. Context of the projects. Even when USAID was involved, the expenditures were part of broader initiatives with long-term strategic goals. For example, the investment in LGBT workplace inclusion in Serbia was aimed at promoting diversity and economic development, objectives that many international development experts consider critical in fostering stable, modern societies. Similarly, the funds allocated for electric vehicle infrastructure in Vietnam were tied to environmental and technological development programs that align with global trends toward sustainable energy. Oversight and accountability. USAID's budgetary processes are subject to extensive oversight by Congress, independent watchdogs, and external audits. While no agency is immune to wasteful spending, the examples cited by the President represent only a fraction of a multi-billion-dollar annual budget that has been scrutinized and, in many cases, lauded for its impact. 2. Legal authority to dismantle USAID. The claims. The Trump administration asserted that it had the power to unilaterally dismantle USAID to eliminate inefficiency and corruption. What the fact-checkers found: congressional mandate. USAID was created by an act of Congress, and its continued operation is enshrined in federal law. The Congressional Research Service has clearly stated that the President does not possess the unilateral authority to abolish or significantly restructure USAID without legislative approval. Checks and balances. The U.S. government structure ensures that major changes to federal agencies require a series of checks and balances. Any attempt to dismantle an agency of USAID's stature would necessitate extensive consultations, debate in Congress, and likely face judicial scrutiny. This safeguard is designed to prevent abrupt changes that could undermine long-standing policy objectives and global commitments. Historical precedent. There is little historical precedent for a president unilaterally dissolving an agency that is as integral to U.S. foreign policy as USAID. Past attempts at significant administrative overhaul have typically encountered substantial resistance from both lawmakers and external stakeholders. 3. Impact on global humanitarian efforts. The claims. Trump and Musk suggested that the overhaul, or even dismantling, of USAID would eliminate inefficiencies and reallocate resources to more effective initiatives. What the fact-checkers found: humanitarian consequences. Experts warn that dismantling USAID could have dire consequences for millions of vulnerable people around the world. USAID's programs support food security, healthcare, education, and disaster relief in regions where local governments lack the capacity to provide these services. Removing this safety net could lead to humanitarian crises in some of the world's poorest nations. Geopolitical ramifications. There is also concern that scaling back U.S. involvement in international development would create a vacuum quickly filled by geopolitical rivals. Analysts from Reuters and The New Yorker have emphasized that reducing American foreign aid might embolden nations like China and Russia to expand their own influence in regions where the U.S. has historically maintained a leadership role. Economic and social development. Beyond immediate humanitarian relief, USAID plays a critical role in laying the groundwork for long-term economic development and social stability. Disrupting these programs could reverse years of progress in nations striving for democracy, stability, and prosperity. Reactions from the global community and domestic institutions. Judicial intervention and congressional backlash. Shortly after the Trump administration announced its intention to gut USAID, a coalition of government workers, labor unions, and advocacy groups filed lawsuits challenging the move. A high-profile case reported by The Guardian and Reuters saw a U.S. judge temporarily block the plan, citing the lack of legal authority for the executive branch to unilaterally dismantle a congressionally mandated agency. This judicial intervention underscores the constitutional limits on executive power and the importance of due process when implementing sweeping policy changes. Media and expert criticism. Major media outlets, including The New Yorker, have been critical of the administration's approach. Articles such as, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are not fixing U.S. foreign aid but destroying it, argue that the proposed dismantling of USAID represents a misguided attempt at bureaucratic efficiency that fails to recognize the agency's nuanced role in global stability. Policy experts and foreign affairs scholars have echoed these concerns, emphasizing that such a move could trigger unintended consequences not only for international development but also for the United States standing on the global stage. Domestic political fallout. Within the United States, the debate over USAID has become emblematic of a broader partisan divide. Supporters of the president argue that reform is necessary to eliminate wasteful spending and redirect funds to domestic priorities, while critics maintain that the international aid provided by USAID is essential for both humanitarian and strategic reasons. Congressional hearings and debates have intensified, with lawmakers from both parties grappling with how to balance fiscal responsibility with the need for continued global engagement. Broader political and geopolitical implications. The politics of foreign aid. Trump's assault on USAID must be viewed against a backdrop of broader political trends. In an era marked by heightened nationalism and skepticism toward multilateral institutions, his rhetoric resonates with segments of the American electorate that favor America First policies. However, the dismantling of USAID could undermine decades of U.S. soft power, a tool that has helped build alliances, stabilize regions, and promote democratic values around the world. Strategic competition with global rivals. Reducing or eliminating USAID's programs may provide short-term political gains domestically, but it risks long-term strategic costs. Analysts warn that rivals such as China and Russia are poised to fill any void left by a retreating U.S. foreign aid apparatus. These nations have already been expanding their influence through initiatives like China's Belt and Road, which combine infrastructure investments with economic and political leverage. In this competitive geopolitical landscape, the U.S. stands to lose significant influence if it curtails its support for international development. The role of misinformation in policy debates. The controversy surrounding USAID is also a cautionary tale about the power of rhetoric and misinformation in shaping public policy. Claims of wasteful spending and radical mismanagement can be potent political tools, even if they do not withstand rigorous fact-checking. As citizens and policymakers sift through competing narratives, the importance of reliable, independent journalism and transparent government oversight has never been more evident. Conclusion. President Trump's sweeping assertions about USAID, characterized by stark language and calls for dismantling a long-standing institution, have ignited a fierce debate over the future of U.S. foreign aid. Detailed fact-checking reveals that while some isolated projects may raise questions about oversight, the broader claims of rampant waste and ideological extremism are largely misleading. Moreover, the legal and constitutional frameworks that govern federal agencies like USAID make unilateral executive action not only impractical but also potentially unconstitutional. The potential fallout from such drastic policy changes is far-reaching. Not only could millions of vulnerable people around the world lose critical support, but the United States could also cede strategic ground to global competitors. In a time when the world is increasingly interconnected and interdependent, any effort to undermine a key instrument of international development must be weighed against the long-term costs to American influence and global stability. As the legal battles unfold and Congress debates the fate of USAID, one thing remains clear: policymaking, especially in the realm of international aid, requires careful consideration of facts, historical context, and the far-reaching impacts on both domestic and global communities. In an era of rapid political change and relentless media scrutiny, it remains essential to ground our policy debates in verifiable facts and a comprehensive understanding of history. The case of USAID serves as a reminder that while reform is always necessary, dismantling an institution without due process may carry consequences that extend far beyond the political arena. To help our channel grow, please comment, share, like and subscribe.